Mike Tyson walked through the bustling East Los Angeles market, enjoying the lively atmosphere. Vendors shouted their prices, colorful fruits and vegetables filled every stall, and laughter from children echoed around him. Tyson was no stranger to the spotlight, but today he sought anonymity, cherishing a moment of peace away from the crowd of admirers. As he approached Maria's fruit stand, smiling at the sight of her vibrant oranges and strawberries, he felt the warmth of the community enveloping him. He greeted Maria, exchanging pleasantries, when suddenly his attention was drawn to a group of young gang members loitering nearby. Their demeanor suggested trouble, a tension that curled like smoke in the air. "Hey, old man, what's has been like you doing here?" One of the gang members, a wiry youth, sneered while stepping forward. The grip of intimidation laced his voice. Tyson instinctively shifted, assessing the situation. "I'm just here to enjoy some fruit, kid," he replied, his tone steady. "You might want to find better things to do with your time." The gang member's bravado increased, and he glanced toward his friends, finding encouragement in their shared laughter. "You think you're tough just because you beat up some guys in a ring? We run this place, and you're not welcome here." Before Tyson could respond, the leader of the gang, a man named Luis, emerged from the shadows, his presence commanding attention. "What's the commotion?" he growled, eyes darting toward Tyson. Luis was known for his violent temperament, and the way he surveyed Tyson suggested he was ready to put on a show of dominance. "You've got some nerve, stepping into our turf," he said, a smirk twisting across his face. "You think this is a game? I'm not looking for trouble, just for some peace," Tyson replied, remaining calm, but he could feel the tension pulsing around him. Luis stepped closer, towering over Tyson. "You think you can just stroll here? Your time is over, and you're out of your league." Tyson clenched his fists, aware of the escalating aggressiveness of their surrounding. "I'm not afraid of you or your crew," he responded, though he knew he had to choose his words wisely to de-escalate the situation. Then, like a match striking flame, the gang members moved closer, emboldened by their leader's presence. "What are you going to do?" one of them taunted, stepping forward as a wave of adrenaline coursed through Tyson's body. Tyson saw the desperation in the eyes of people nearby and decided he couldn't let fear overcome the spirit of the community. "I suggest you back off," he warned. "This isn't a fight you want to pick." But Luis laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the stands. "You think you can scare us with your stories? You're just a washed-up boxer. We're the ones in charge." In that moment, Tyson felt the heat rising within him. There was a time when he would have let anger dictate his actions, but maturity now tempered his focus. The air crackled with tension, and he knew he had to make a stand, not just for himself but for the community gathered around. "Enough!" Tyson shouted, taking a step forward, resolving to face the confrontation head-on. "You want to show strength? Show it to the people who need protection, not intimidation." Luis stepped back, momentarily surprised by Tyson's fierce resolve. "You really think you're a hero?" he scoffed. "I don't need to be a hero," Tyson replied. "I just want to ensure everyone has a chance to live without fear." The market simmered, a captivated audience drawn in by Tyson's defiance. The gang members exchanged glances, uncertain of their next move. Then, one gang member lunged at Tyson, aiming a wild punch. Tyson reversed the attack skillfully, and the gang member stumbled forward, momentarily distracted. In that instant, Tyson seized the opportunity to deliver a swift blow to another attacker, his instincts kicking in as the years of training came flooding back. A ripple of shock spread through the crowd as Tyson's impressive agility emerged, turning the tide of the confrontation from verbal battles to a physical contest. Tyson moved with precision, using the space wisely against more numerous opponents. Luis glared, realizing the fight wasn't going as anticipated, and he tried to rally his crew. "Don't let him show you up. Get him." Tyson continued to hold his ground, his focus on the defense of the innocent rather than simple retaliation. The gang members, emboldened by their numbers, began to swarm, But Tyson's swift movements thwarted their advances. One at a time, Tyson called out, refusing to relent. He ducked and dodged, landing precise punches while keeping his defenses intact. The gathered crowd gasped as they watched an iconic figure reclaim his space against the looming dangers. Luis's fury pitched the fight into chaos, and Tyson's resolve only deepened, embracing the collective strength around him. "Stay back," he shouted to the onlookers as they began to realize what was at stake. Just when Tyson thought he could drive them back, he spotted a familiar face among the crowd, Maria's young son, Jaden. The boy had gotten too close to the chaos, and panic gripped Tyson. In a rush of instinct, Tyson turned to shield the boy from the fray, his muscles tense, heart racing. "Get back, Jaden," he shouted, his focus narrowing as he moved to protect the vulnerable. Luis seized the moment, snapping his fingers for reinforcements. "Let's take care of this legend once and for all." Tyson's world narrowed further as he faced Luis, a mix of anger and determination coursing through him. He couldn't let fear win. Not for himself, not for Jaden or anyone else in the crowd. Amidst the chaos, Tyson charted a path through the confrontation, striking with purpose and an undeniable presence. Each punch was a statement. Each dodge was a step toward reassurance for the community watching. The air surged with tension, the danger palpable. With the crowd filled with anxiety, Tyson faced the gang, instinctually understanding that he wasn't simply fighting for himself. He was standing up for their safety and dignity. As the officers arrived amidst the chaos, sirens wailing in the distance, Tyson remained vigilant, realizing that the battle was only partly won. Luis and his crew began to retreat. Setbacks painted across their expressions, but shadows still lingered. Tyson turned to the crowd, a sense of determination radiating through him. "Stay safe. Protect each other," he called, a voice of authority amidst uncertainty. As the police took control of the situation, Tyson sensed the simmering tension wasn't simply going to dissolve. The fight was far from over, as opposition always lurked in the corners, plotting and scheming to reclaim their dominance. But Tyson stood firm, fueled by the collective hope of the community he had grown to love. The day had ended without tragedy, but a new battle was on the horizon, one that would test the limits of courage and resilience in the heart of East Los Angeles. And as night fell, so too did a sense of profound purpose. Tyson knew he would fight, not just for himself, but for every open heart pounding among those who believed that kindness, justice, and strength would always triumph against fear. As night descended upon East Los Angeles, the market quieted and the vibrant stalls dimmed, but the hum of uncertainty lingered in the air. Mike Tyson stood in the middle of the clearing where the confrontation had just unfolded, his heart still racing. Even as police officers managed the dispersing crowd, he could feel the weight of Luis's words echoing in the back of his mind. "This isn't over." The adrenaline began to ebb, replaced with the realization that he had earned the respect of many, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing on the horizon. The community, which had once felt so safe, now felt different, vulnerable, as if the shadows lurking in alleys had grown longer and more menacing. Tyson turned to the crowd of locals who had watched him stand against the gang. Their eyes were filled with a mix of admiration and concern, and he felt a burgeoning responsibility to guide them through this new chapter of uncertainty. "Listen," he addressed them, the weight of his voice resonating in the cool night air. "It's crucial that we stick together. They'll come back, but if we stand united, we can fight back." The chatter within the crowd grew quieter as his words absorbed their attention. Among them, Maria stepped forward, her eyes filled with gratitude yet tinged with worry. "Thank you for protecting Jaden. But what are we going to do? They're not going to just let this go, right?" Tyson nodded slowly, understanding her fear. "No, they won't. Luis is determined to reclaim control, and he'll see this as a challenge. But we have to prepare ourselves. They'll seek a response, and we need to be ready." Jaden emerged from behind his mother's skirt, brushing aside a few stray strands of hair from his forehead. He looked up at Tyson, eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of admiration. "Are you really going to fight them again?" he asked innocently. Tyson knelt down to meet the boy's gaze. "I hope it doesn't come to that, kid. But if they threaten you or your friends again, I won't back down." He offered Jaden a reassuring smile, willed by a sense of protection that overflowed from the former champion boxer. "Mike," Maria added, a note of pleading in her voice, "maybe you should leave town for a while. We don't want you to get hurt." Tyson shook his head, resolve hardening within him like steel. "I can't. This is my home now, and I'm not running from a fight. I've fought enough to know stand up for what's right. What can we all do?" A voice from the crowd rang out, heartened by the presence of their larger-than-life neighbor. "We can't let them intimidate us." Another voice chimed in, a middle-aged man named Carlos, who often sold handmade crafts at the market. "We should have an assembly. Give ourselves a plan. Show them we're not afraid." Tyson stood up straight, energized by the surge of unity in the air. "A community meeting is a great idea," he agreed, feeling the momentum building. "Let's gather everyone tomorrow evening. We'll come up with a strategy together and make sure that no one feels alone." With renewed spirit, the locals nodded, energized by Tyson's leadership. They began to disperse, discussing ways to support each other. But Tyson's mind remained locked on Luis and the potential reprisal. As the crowd thinned out, Tyson felt a pull within. He lingered for a moment, looking at the now empty market stalls that had been bright and lively just hours ago. There was something haunting about the contrast. A sudden chill swept through the air, and Tyson instinctively tightened his jacket. That night, he returned home, the day's events replaying in his mind like the rhythm of a boxing match. The quick strikes followed by evasive maneuvers, and the victories felt bittersweet. He settled into his living room, surrounded by reminders of his past triumphs and tribulations, but his heart felt heavy. He flipped through channels aimlessly on television, but the images blurred as his thoughts drifted. What would Luis do? The man was cunning, and Tyson could feel the undercurrents of violence intensifying. Tackling the problems head-on was something Tyson understood well, but there was also an element of strategy. It wasn't just about physicality. This required a cultivated approach. As Tyson sat in his silence, contemplating his next moves, a soft knock echoed from the door, breaking his contemplation. He opened it to find Maria and Jaden standing there, both looking anxious but firm. "Can we come in?" Maria asked cautiously, glancing around as if to ensure no one could overhear. "Of course," Tyson replied, ushering them inside. Once the door clicked shut, Maria took a deep breath, looking resolute. "What are we going to do?" she asked, eyes piercing with determination. Jaden, holding her hand, looked up at Tyson expectantly. "I want you all to be involved in the discussions at the assembly. We need to show strength in numbers. Create a network of support that Luis won't expect," Tyson said, pacing the room as ideas swirled through his mind. Jaden's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Can I help?" "Absolutely. Your courage makes a difference," Tyson said, kneeling again to communicate directly with the boy. "Even if it seems small, every little action counts." As Maria nodded her approval, Tyson could see the tension in her shoulders ease, her hopeful demeanor reflecting the spirit of the community they were beginning to build. They discussed the details of the meeting, what they would need to address, and the angles they could take to fortify themselves against the looming threat. Hours passed, and the trio delved deeply into strategy. They sketched ideas and rallied around solutions. The laughter and warmth filled the room, breaking the tension as genuine camaraderie blossomed among them. It wasn't just about facing the gang anymore. It was about reclaiming their lives and catalyzing a community for the future, one that wouldn't cower in fear but would embrace the light of courage. In the days that followed, word began to spread about the assembly. Neighborhood flyers fluttered like birds as Maria, Tyson, and Jaden shared their message. Families gathered, friendships renewed, and a shared sense of empowerment unfurled like a banner above them. All at once, As the sun set further into the horizon, a deep sense of purpose resonated within Tyson. He was no longer just a boxer fighting for victory in a ring. He was a champion of hope, fighting for the community that had opened its heart to him. However, the gnawing worry about Louis still lurked in the background, a reminder that adversity had a way of twisting through tumultuous times. Tyson knew that as the assembly approached, they would need every ounce of collective strength to confront the shadows that were sure to challenge them. With that thought seeping into his core, he readied himself for what was to come. A fight not just against villains, but one of hope, resilience, and community spirit, setting the stage for a future brighter than the conflicts that lay in wait. The battle lines were drawn, but Tyson wasn't merely preparing for a showdown. He was ready to unite an entire community against fear itself. The evening of the assembly arrived, the night sky studded with stars that shimmered like hope in the darkness. Tyson stood on the front steps of the community center, his heart thrumming in anticipation. They had never faced anything like this together before, and the energy in the crowd that began to gather spoke of apprehension and resilience. As people trickled in, Tyson greeted each of them warmly. Neighbors shook hands, greeted each other with hugs, and exchanged stories, the initial tension giving way to a palpable sense of unity. Maria and Jaden arrived shortly after, Jaden brimming with excitement and confidence, a smile lighting up his youthful face. "Are you ready for this?" Tyson asked the boy, who nodded vigorously, clutching a paper with notes ready to share. "Absolutely. I've got some ideas." Jaden beamed, his enthusiasm infectious. Once the bell rang, families, couples, and individuals filled the space, transforming the community center into a place bursting with purpose. Tyson took a moment to absorb the scene, feeling gratitude well up within him. This was their sanctuary, the haven that had weathered storms and still stood strong. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Tyson began, stepping onto the small stage set up at the front. The room quieted, eyes fixated on him. "We're gathered here not just as individuals, but as a community that deserves respect and safety. Recently, we've faced intimidation. We can't allow fear to dictate our lives." Soft murmurs began to ripple through the crowd, heads nodding in agreement. "I know Luis and his crew represent a threat, but we will not back down. Tonight, we stand together," he continued, his voice growing stronger. "We'll discuss how to protect one another, ways to support our kids, and turn that fear into a united strength." As people voiced their thoughts and concerns, Tyson listened intently. Maria shared her worries about their children's safety, while Carlos echoed how vital it was for everyone to feel involved in their protection. "We need to develop a neighborhood watch," Carlos suggested. "We have to be vigilant and communicate with each other." "That's a great idea," Tyson agreed. "But it's not just about keeping watch. It's about creating a network of support. If one of us sees something, we speak up together." The room buzzed with energy and passion, ideas flowing freely as people brainstormed. Jaden couldn't contain his excitement and stepped forward. "What if we create a safe space, like a gathering for kids to play, learn, and feel safe? We could teach them self-defense and help them understand what to do when someone tries to hurt them." Laughter and applause embraced Jaden's suggestion, and Tyson couldn't help but smile at the little boy's fearless spirit. "That's brilliant, Jaden," Tyson exclaimed, energized by the idea. "We can host workshops while we build skills together." From that moment, the meeting took on a life of its own, a powerful assembly of voices echoing throughout the center. Plans were drawn, ideas documented on the whiteboard set at the front, and initiatives took shape. Rahima offered to host yoga and mindfulness sessions for stress relief, while Carlos spoke about organizing community cleanups to reclaim their neighborhood. As the discussions deepened, Tyson felt a surge of warmth and camaraderie swirl around him, the ice of fear slowly melting away in the fire of community. But shadows lingered still, and the reality of the situation weighed on his shoulders. One detail continued to haunt him. Luis had been watching. Tyson felt it. The looming threat was ever present, an ominous specter. Days turned into weeks, and as they meticulously prepared for a united front, Luis's presence in the shadows became more pronounced. Some residents reported seeing him on the edges of the neighborhood, while others caught whispers of his crew asserting dominance by bullying smaller vendors at the market. One afternoon, Tyson decided to visit the local gym, a place where he often trained and where local youths gathered to get fit and learn discipline. As he moved through the familiar atmosphere filled with the sounds of rhythmic punches against heavy bags and the squeak of sneakers on the floor, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. While chatting with some of the young boxers, they expressed appreciation for the community efforts taking place. "We've never seen someone like you care so much," one teen remarked, the respect reflecting in his eyes. Tyson smiled. "What we're doing is essential. If we want East Los Angeles to thrive, we have to fight for it, in and out of the ring." As he left the gym, a sudden chill struck him, and he felt a watchful gaze. Turning his head, he caught a glimpse of Luis lurking in the distance, his signature cap tilted low, the faint outline of a smirk just visible as he melted back into the crowd. Tyson's instincts flared as he clenched his fists. The tension of the impending confrontation loomed higher, thick in the air. Soon after, rumors swirled that Luis's gang was planning something, an event Eduardo had overheard during a late-night outing at the diner. The unease rippled through the community, mounting tension akin to an impending storm. "We can't just wait for their next move," Maria insisted during the following assembly. "We need to claim our space. Luis thinks we're scared. We need to show him we're not." Tyson nodded, the gleam of determination igniting within him. "You're right, Maria. We need to send a message. We need a show of strength." The plan unfurled organically as the group rallied. "Let's host a block party," someone suggested. "Make it big. Show our numbers, the vibrancy of our community." "Yes." Tyson jumped in, excitement sparking within him. "We'll gather everyone, invite families, and showcase our efforts in bringing people together." As the date of the block party approached, Tyson immersed himself in preparations. Music, food, games, and workshops for kids. It was set to be an event that celebrated resilience and togetherness. Flyers blared the message throughout the neighborhood, urging everyone to join in. But even amidst joyous preparations, Tyson could feel the unyielding weight of Luis's dark presence lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. When the day of the block party finally arrived, the sun bathed East Los Angeles in a golden glow, illuminating the spirit of joy that radiated from the community. Laughter echoed as families set up their booths and tables. Local musicians played lively tunes, and children dashed around, painted faces beaming with delight. Tyson stood at the center of it all, a sense of pride swelling within him. He greeted neighbors, shared stories, and reveled in the joyous energy enveloping them. For a moment, it felt as though the worries that had once clouded their lives had lifted, replaced by laughter and camaraderie. But as the sun dipped and twilight cast long shadows, a tension in the air grew. Tyson noticed a knot of familiar figures in the distance. A group of gang members, led by Luis, loitering near the entrance to the festivities. Tyson clenched his jaw, the festive atmosphere now fraught with apprehension. Luis and his crew were here, and this time they weren't just watching. The moment had come. A challenge had been thrown down, and the real fight for East Los Angeles loomed large before him, just as palpable as the atmosphere crackling with anticipation. As the rhythmic sound of music pulsed and the crowd cheered on the festivities, Tyson knew that the excitement would soon collide with the dark intentions of Luis's gang. Across the vibrant display of resilience and joy, his mind raced. They had prepared for this, but the reality was now surging toward them like an approaching storm, and how they respond would determine the future of their community. Tyson drew a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through his veins. This was about more than just him. They were all in this together. No matter what happened next, they would stand strong, united against the shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. The blocks might be filled with bright lights and laughter, but everything hinged on their courage to face that darkness together. As the evening wore on, The block party reached its climax, music and laughter reaching a fever pitch. Tyson stood at the edge of the crowd, his eyes never leaving the gathering of gang members. He felt a surge of anxiety, his mind racing with strategies to defuse the situation. Suddenly, Luis sauntered through the crowd, his eyes gleaming with a mix of curiosity and mockery. He scanned the sea of faces, his gaze lingering on the vibrant decorations, the food stalls, and the joyful atmosphere. Tyson felt his jaw tighten as Luis's eyes locked onto him. For a moment, they stood facing each other, the air thick with tension. Well, Luis drawled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Look at all these happy faces. You're really something, Tyson. This is quite the show you put on. Tyson stood his ground, his voice steady. We're not here to fight, Luis. We're here to celebrate community and resilience. We've built something strong here, and we're not going anywhere. Luis raised an eyebrow, a hint of surprise flickering in his expression. You really think you can take us down? This is our neighborhood, our turf. You're just a bunch of wannabes trying to take over. Tyson shook his head, a firm determination etched on his face. We're not fighting for turf or territory. We're fighting for our right to live in peace, to raise our families without fear. We're fighting for the soul of this community. The crowd around them grew quiet, sensing the intensity of the moment. Luis's eyes flashed with anger, but for a moment, Tyson saw a glimmer of uncertainty. Then, in an instant, Luis's demeanor shifted. His face twisted into a snarl, and he sneered at Tyson. You're just a fool, Tyson. You think you can challenge us and win? We'll crush you, just like we crushed your friend Eduardo. Tyson's heart sank, a cold dread creeping up his spine. He had been so focused on the party, on the celebration, that he had forgotten about Eduardo, about the rumors and the whispers. Luis's words hung in the air like a challenge, and the crowd held its breath. For a moment, it seemed as though time itself had slowed down, the only sound the distant hum of the music and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. Then, in a flash, the moment was gone. Luis turned on his heel and disappeared into the crowd, his gang following close behind. The silence was oppressive, a palpable sense of foreboding hanging over the party. Tyson felt a wave of despair wash over him. He had been so blind, so focused on the celebration, that he had ignored the warning signs. Now it seemed too late. The storm had finally broken, and they were caught in the midst of it. As the crowd began to murmur, to whisper among themselves, Tyson knew that their community was on the brink of a new and uncertain future. They had faced the shadows, but the shadows had not been vanquished. Instead, they had grown stronger, more menacing. The party, once a symbol of hope and resilience, was now a mere backdrop for the gathering storm. Tyson's heart ached with a sense of loss, of regret. He had tried to hold on to the light, to the joy and the laughter, but the darkness had proved too powerful. As the night drew to a close, the partygoers began to disperse, their faces somber, their eyes haunted. Tyson watched them go, his heart heavy with foreboding. He knew that the days ahead would be difficult, that the road to recovery would be long and arduous. But even as the shadows closed in around them, Tyson stood tall, a glimmer of defiance burning within him. They may have faced a gathering storm, but they would not be broken. They would rise again, stronger, more united, and more determined than ever before. The battle for East Los Angeles was far from over. But Tyson knew that as long as they stood together, as long as they held on to the light, they would overcome even the darkest of storms.